Dream, 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 dream.
When you think of slashers, you usually picture some big monolithic son of a bitch with an oversized knife carving a swath through a landscape of jock douchebags, horny teens, bitchy rich girls, and clueless Shaggy-esque stoners. That all changed in 1984, however, when the slasher genre gave us a certain dream demon by the name of Freddy Krueger in A Nightmare on Elm Street. His victims were still the same teens that we came to expect as fodder for the meat grinder, but they were different. None of them seemed to be displaying the obvious character flaws that made the audience cheer for their untimely, gruesome deaths. Sadly, time would prove that even Fear himself was not immune to cliché conventions and over-the-top silliness.
Now I'm playing with power!
As the years went on, and fans began to question if they would ever see Krueger return to form in a proper follow-up to the franchise's earlier films, the studio seemed to be losing interest, and the man behind the claw...
The claw!
No. The other claw. There you go. Seemed to be getting too old to subject himself to some of the more demanding stunts that are expected in today's popcorn flicks. Luckily for horror fans, 2010 brought us what I consider to be one of the best horror remakes of the current rehash craze. The film hits the ground running and opens with a nightmare sequence where this guy, played by Twilight's Kellen Lutz, is stalked through the least kosher-friendly diner on Earth. One jump scare later, and it's revealed that he had dozed off at his booth. When you think about it, his part, which is so small it's practically a cameo, is actually pretty effective. It gives Twilight fans an excuse to check out the movie, and it gives horror fans a chance to see Freddy rip open a glittery vampire. It also shows the audience that Krueger is already here and killing in full force. Let's face it, these movies have been around for about 26 years now. By now we know the formula, and we don't want to sit through a quarter of the film before the mayhem begins. Child molester / killer with a knife, claw, fedora, and Christmas sweater burned alive by an angry mob who's come back to exact revenge by killing their kids while they sleep? Check. Now on to the killing.
Found you.
That said, while many of the staples of the Nightmare on Elm Street series are intact, that didn't stop the writers from playing around with a few new ideas. From the start of the movie, all the kids seem visibly sleep-deprived, which is something that is surprisingly lacking from most of the original franchise, with the exception here or there. This of course leads to something that was never really addressed in the original series: the inevitable repercussions of sleep deprivation. While none of the characters have a psychotic break and go on a rampage of their own, they do have to deal with microsleep. At any given moment, they could experience involuntary periods of sleep lasting from about 1 to 30 seconds, during which they have at least one foot in the dream world. If that weren't bad enough, they also have to deal with the fact that if they stay awake long enough, they can risk falling into a coma, making them even easier to kill than, well, a teen in any other slasher film. For a good portion of the film, the main characters explore the possibility that Freddy might have been innocent, and the killings are his revenge for the mob justice dispensed by the parents of Springwood. I have to admit that when this angle was first presented in the trailers, I was kinda wary. Something about him being in any way justified for the terror he causes just kinda takes away some of his edge. Fortunately, this proved to be a red herring, as it's revealed to us that not only was he guilty, but the seeds of doubt were all part of a larger plan that could only have been pulled off by a truly sick fuck.
What are those pictures of?
They're all of you.
And therein lies the reason that this remake is so effective. Freddy Krueger has been my favorite boogeyman since I was 7, and this is the first time in a really long time that I've seen him as genuinely threatening. Hell, more than just threatening, this version of him is a rare mix of playful, pissed off, and perverted in ways that would make Caligula blush. The character is brought back to the evil roots of his early days, and for the most part sheds the cartoonish tint that he's taken on over the years. This is all pulled off flawlessly by Jackie Earle Haley, who you may remember as Rorschach from Watchmen, and Ronnie the town pedophile from Little Children. That's right, they cast an Oscar-nominated character actor in the role of Freddy Krueger. If I were Robert Englund, I'd be incredibly flattered, because this shows that the people behind the remake realize that you can't just slap some makeup and a glove on just any jackass and expect to get a decent Freddy. The ending is a little predictable for anyone who's seen a Nightmare on Elm Street movie. There are really only a couple ways you can deal with a guy like that. Ultimately, they decide to use the ever-popular tactic of physically dragging Freddy out into the real world, where he'll be mortal and powerless. This is complicated a bit, since Freddy's plan all along had been to keep Nancy awake long enough so that when she finally did go to sleep, she wouldn't be able to wake up again.
I'll be in here a long time.
Nancy, please!
You really think your boyfriend could wake you up?
Please don't do this!
Like I said, sick fuck. His plan kind of shits the bed due to a pretty out-of-nowhere Pulp Fiction reference where Nancy's friend Quentin revives her with an adrenaline shot to the heart. What I never understood about this plan is that they kill Freddy every time they get him into the real world. What are they, fucking stupid? His death is what started this mess in the first place. Once you've lopped his glove hand off, why not just beat him into submission, call the cops, and get him locked up in solitary confinement for the rest of his unnatural life? You'll sleep a lot easier, trust me. The only other real problem I have may seem like a nitpick, but despite being such a minor part of the movie, I still can't forgive how laughably cheap this looks. What the hell was that? It looks like something out of The Frighteners, and that was released 14 years ago. It wouldn't piss me off so much except that this shot was already perfected in the original version of this movie. See how creepy this is? And that was done on a shoestring budget. Now, I've seen a lot of other reviews of this movie out there, and all I have to say is, what the hell? It almost seems like a lot of people wanted to hate this movie before it even came out, as evident in some of the frivolous crap they decided to call the film out on. Half of the reviews I read made mention of the teens looking emo, despite the fact that there isn't a person on Earth who wouldn't look washed out and depressed after weeks of sleepless, terror-filled nights. Another dumbass gripe I've run into have been the people who dislike the new Freddy makeup and liken it to the creatures from Avatar. Kind of a dick move when you realize that the new makeup is based on what really happens to people who've sustained third-degree burns over the entirety of their face and head. When all is said and done, the 2010 remake of A Nightmare on Elm Street is a tribute to Krueger's legacy and a love letter to his fans. As someone who's been a Fredhead for the majority of my life, I was dreading all the things that could have gone horribly wrong, but in the end I can honestly say that this nightmare is a dream come true. Oh god, that line was corny.
Dream.